I'm going to bring it back. Welcome back to Rush Share Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshitar, licensed loan officer with NFM Lending. Please be reminded that NFM Lending is an equal housing lender, and my license number is 117266. If you're just tuning in, we were just introducing our special guest, and I'll go ahead and introduce everybody quickly again. We've got expert contributor here, Preston Salem with Home Inspection Carolina, and then guest Mike Perlowski with eXp Realty, and Mike Trochet with NFM Lending. And today we've got a super cool theme that we put together for our listeners and for anyone that listens to us later on our podcast or sees these links on rushhourradio.com. But today we're going to be talking about 7 key considerations on how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. You know, we often have, I've had shows in the past, Mike, as we were planning for the show, you see, I'm going to do something a little different. We talked about 8 or 10 things you can do to sell your house. We've talked about things first-time buyers can do to be prepared to buy a home. But we never really talked about a first-time buyer can actually win. They can grow their wealth and grow equity even as a first-timer.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So I thought it was a really kind of a cool concept, and it really melded well with your talents, with you having all kinds of experience between renovating, investing, helping buyers, helping sellers. You've got such a great background to help people in doing this. So super cool topic. So let's jump into our key consideration number 1, which is work with the right realtor. So let
me make this simple for you.
The number is, what was that, Mike?
704-771-0130.
There you go. So there's thousands of realtors. I don't know if you shared that stat with us, but there's quite a few realtors to pick from. But what are some of the things that a listener or a client should consider when choosing a realtor?
Well, I mean, there's definitely a number of them, Chris. Availability, obviously. We've got a lot of great realtors in Charlotte. We really do. And obviously, with the market, how hot it is, people are very busy. So I guess the biggest thing right now is just availability.
Okay, cool.
I'm available all the time, by the way.
And then number 2 would be, you had mentioned at least I think you have to consider the overall experience of the realtor and have they worked in the trenches. And again, we're talking about how to win in real estate, and we're going to talk about some key things a little bit later as we move through. But someone being in the trenches, I mean, you've bought properties, sold properties, invested, rented, renovated, evicted, did you say?
Yes.
Hopefully it means you weren't evicted. But it sounds like you've got, and you've been in mortgage underwriting and did short sales and foreclosure, all that kind of stuff.
I'm tired.
Exactly.
You've got a lot of stuff, man.
Overall experience, I think you've checked the box.
Yes.
Been in the trenches too. I mean, if you've been in there swinging the hammer, renovating properties, that gives you some advantage when you're showing homes to first-time buyers that may think, gosh, what can we earn and grow in terms of wealth and equity in this home over the next 3, 5, 7 years, so that we can step up into that next home. So, super cool. So,
well, can I add something there?
Yeah, please.
I think that's really valuable because it's kind of like, I hate to say this, but if you go to a financial planner, and this kid's like 20 years old, and I'm just like, how could you, or a fitness person that is kind of out of shape, and I'm sort of like, I'm taking advice, but this guy's done it all. He's done the mortgage part of it. He's done the investing. He's done all the stuff that I'm wanting to do. So that to me gives him a lot of credibility.
Absolutely. All right, and one other element that we mentioned as we were sort of planning the show is a consideration for our listener is when you're choosing to work with the right realtor, you really should be working with someone that does it full time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that goes back to availability. Absolutely. So, if you're looking at homes during the day, obviously someone has a full-time job, they're not going to be able to tell.
Right, and sometimes I've seen where people will work with a family member that used to be a full-time realtor, kind of does it on the side, and they end up losing the bids because they can't go see the houses. And you have to kind of be ready in certain communities in certain parts of town. If the house goes on the market at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, it's going to be under contract by the end of the day. And so if your realtor is working at some big bank and doing real estate at just evenings and weekends, you may have just lost your dream home.
Absolutely.
Well, and you're talking about a dream home here, which is probably the biggest investment in most people's lives. I mean, this is not a commodity item here. I mean, do you want, you want somebody who does this 24/7 and that knows what they're doing. we're not buying cookies from the neighborhood kid to help their band out.
It's not Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, this
Or
is not,
coupon
you know, we're
books.
not, I know you probably got a cousin who does real estate on the side and you'd like to help them out, but.
Pretty soon, I don't know, maybe Girl Scouts of America. will be
Yeah,
selling
we'll buy
homes
some
too.
Girl Scout cookies, but when it comes to the biggest investment of your life and where all your memories are gonna be made with your family, I want a professional.
Right.
Sweet. All right, let's go to bullet number 2 in terms of 7 key considerations on how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. Number 2 is finding a home in the right area. So share some thoughts on that.
Well, location, location, location,
There you go.
as everyone always says. You know, if someone is looking, you know, South Charlotte, you know, obviously you have to have somebody in the right price point. If they want a fixer-upper, you know, put them in an area where you can find the fixer-uppers and where the house is going to, you know, hopefully appreciate. So you just want to put, you know, and I want to put my clients, you know, in the, you know, in the right position to win.
Right, because I think if you're talking about winning in real estate here, this may mean the first-time buyer needs to look at something that may need a little TLC, maybe in a neighborhood that's up and coming,
Yep.
where people have put a lot of money in and sales are supporting homes that have been renovated. If you try to renovate a house in a community where nothing's been done in any of the homes, you're not going to get the money back, right? So I think the person who's really going to win as a first-time buyer here is to listen to you and look for homes in the right communities.
Correct.
So perfect. All right, so let's roll to number 3, which is closely examine the comps, or what we call comparable sales. So first of all, talk about what a comparable sale is, and then maybe share how that works.
Comparable sale is just a house that it closely matches the house that you want to buy. So, for example,
A home that recently sold.
Absolutely, that recently sold, typically within, you know, the last pretty much couple months. In this market, usually it's 6 months, but this market obviously is, you know, prices keep going up, so timetable goes down a little bit. But, you know, you want to, so for example, you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. A comparable is not going to be a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house. So you want to try to find another 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with closest, you know, the same square footage, building materials, things of this nature.
Perfect. And so we have to look closely at comparables, because you may be trying to find something that someone can kind of renovate and then gain some equity growth over time. What are some of the other considerations?
As far as renovations go?
Or just, you know, related to these comps.
Well,
What about the sales in the community in terms of, are you looking to see the spread between lower sales and higher sales? How do you determine what would be a good community to renovate in?
well, you know, like we talked about earlier, I mean, if we have a up and coming area, so if someone has, you know, they have more of an appetite for risk. Maybe they want to get into that area that's, you know, it just is starting to be up and coming, and they can hold on to that property for a longer period of time. Or maybe they want to move into an established area and find a really good deal. Maybe there was a foreclosure, a short sale, or, you know, maybe an estate sale where the house wasn't, you know, obviously couldn't be taken care of very well. So, you know, it really just depends on the client and what they want to do and where they want to be.
Right, and I think really at the end of the day, the other key element is if you're looking in the community and you're thinking about, well, let's get something renovated and help you grow that equity, that you've got to make sure that you can get something that's affordable, right?
Absolutely.
Because we've seen, and I'm just talking out loud now, I've seen even some cases where foreclosures are put on the market are pretty close to what regular sales are selling for.
Yes.
And then you've got multiple bids, and then somebody really ends up overpaying for a house that by the time they get it to standard, you put more money in it than maybe what other homes are selling for that are already
Right.
So it's a tricky game. It's not as easy
It can
as you
be.
think, right?
Yep, and that's actually where Preston and his business could actually come in. If they come in and they see, hey, there's some issues with this house, and then, you know, if you have a foreclosure like that, then you can try to negotiate. So.
Right.
Yeah, you got to look at the full deal. I mean, sometimes there's a fixer-upper, but, you know, is this fixer-upper with the repairs that need to be made plus your sweat equity and time going
Right.
to be equivalent or better than one that's already set to go.
Or new construction or what
Right,
have you.
right.
Yep.
Absolutely, cool. All right, so we are still talking about the 7 key considerations here of how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. You're listening to Rush Air Radio. I'm your show host. If there's anything you hear along the way, feel free to give me a text or a phone call at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. All right, let's start out our next one. I'm not sure we'll get through it all, but the 4th consideration is really understanding where to get your biggest bang for your buck with renovations. So let's just say Mike's taken the time, you've chosen him as your realtor, as the right realtor. You started to area shop for location, and you've started to examine comparable sales, and now you're looking at a point where maybe we found a house. How do you choose what to renovate? So, or maybe I should ask the question, what are the best things to renovate?
Obviously, kitchens and bathrooms are number 1.
Where are you going to be in the house the most? Area you're going to spend the most time.
I mean, obviously, we want to make sure the house isn't going to fall over, so we have a strong foundation, the roof looks good, got newer windows. Beyond all that, the kitchens and bathrooms are where the money is.
Yep.
What kinds of things do you typically see renovated in the kitchen?
Obviously, cabinets, countertops. Everyone loves their granite countertops or their marble countertops, depending on where you're at, in Charlotte.
Yeah, quartz, whatever.
Yeah.
It's different every couple of months.
Right, exactly.
They like the fixtures or the metal. I know brass was big back in the 80s, but now it's like, oh, brass. I gotta get like, I don't know, what is it, polished nickel or
Hey,
something.
brass is coming back.
I know, if you
watch
hold on to some,
HGTV.
and barn doors. I'm like,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, man, we had the saloon things in the kitchen, and that was like the coolest thing.
And they always
come in like
right?
gun smoke. Take 'em on.
Was it Smells Diner?
Yeah.
Everything always comes back in style
You
eventually.
hold on to it, man.
But no, flooring, obviously. People love stainless steel appliances. Depending on again where you're at in Charlotte, maybe some higher end appliances. Like Preston was saying, fixtures. The popular thing with the faucets these days are the touchless. So
Or the touch screen TV built into the refrigerator door?
Yes.
Have you ever
Yeah. Tell you when you're low on milk. So.
Exactly. It's
I
kind of
already got my wife calling me to stop at the grocery store. I don't need my refrigerator calling me too. And pretty soon they'll probably send you a text. I'm out if you didn't already.
Or
Not in my
tell
house.
Amazon Prime.
Your fridge
Yeah.
just
On
sits
your way
right
home,
there.
could you pick up some milk?
That's
And,
right. So I really, at the end of the day, if we're looking at really key things to understand in terms of what to renovate, you've got your kitchens and baths, right, really huge. Flooring can make a huge difference, and obviously paint, general cleanup. Those are all things, but you'll have to balance that. Mike's going to basically take time with you and say, look, the 3 houses that have sold for top dollar, they all upgraded to granite or some sort of countertops, but they all have existing cabinets that were just repainted, right? But, you can kind of get an idea of, let's not overdo it, right? But let's not underdo it. If we want top dollar, here's what the market will support based on the sales or comparables
Correct.
that we can see available.
It's always the market, isn't it? It's not what we want it to be or what we think it to be. It's what the market says.
It's true. Very true.
Yep, that's what an appraiser is going to say at the end of the day. So, all right, well, we're going to have to wrap this segment up. We've got 2 more full segments. More we're going to talk about here, more to come on 7 key considerations on how a first-time buyer can win in real estate. So you're listening to Rush Hour Radio. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Good.